We're going to call the utility committee meeting to order. We're going to start on trash. I just learned something from Roger on the possibility of a grant from on getting trash roll-offs.
Roll-off carts.
Roll-off carts, I guess you call them. And in order to do that, the first decision we're going to have to make is whether we want to do billing on the water bill.
Well, they'll only help you fund roll-out carts for recycling.
Right.
Okay, you can't use them for refuse, just to clarify that.
Right.
It's a competitive grant. The applications won't come out till this fall.
Right.
Which would be November, December, and then if you're interested, talk with Solid Waste District, we'll submit an application, then you know in February or March whether you got funding or not.
But that would entail us doing the billing, adding it to the water bill. Everybody that has water service will have trash service.
That's up to
your
city on that.
I mean, what I'm doing, I'm laying it out so everybody can decide what they want to do. If that's the case, what we're trying to accomplish to get people recycling right now we got these trash dumpsters out in the lot, and they're being used by a lot of people that aren't from Nelsonville. And the people in Nelsonville are paying for them on their trash service. And we had originally decided that we would keep them and ask the hauler in their contract to empty them more often. But I heard from some other council members that they wanted to revisit that. So I wanted the committee to give me their thoughts on that, whether we want to keep the dumpsters or whether we want to go to a roll-off to the citizens. We got to make that decision. Then we got to make the decision whether in the contract we want to do the billing or we want to leave the billing with Rumpke. Well, with whoever gets the contract, but right now Rumpke's doing the billing. And so we need to make that decision. And I just wanted to get Tony's thoughts on the dumpsters and Dan's thoughts on the dumpsters and any other councilman that's in here, thoughts, and make a decision on that. Then if we're not going to keep the dumpsters, if we're going to go to roll-offs, are we going to do the billing and try to get a grant to help pay for the roll-offs, or are we going to just let the hauler continue to do the billing? And that's decisions the committee needs to make. So,
if I could suggest, on the term, you have a public drop-off system now where people can bring it to a centralized point for the public to bring it and put it. The other system that you describe as a roll-off is a curbside service where every resident gets service curbside. And it can be a rollout cart or a tub or a combination of whatever you decide to use. But when you go curbside, you wouldn't have to have public drop-offs anymore because every resident has access at their own place of abode or their own apartment. For a curbside system to be able to continue and for the vendor to be able to do that, it needs a revenue structure because it's not a profitable venture. So it needs either a user fee or a minimum fee, but it's required that you would want all the participants of the community in it, because if you do it kind of what you have now where people sign up for it, you won't get enough participation.
Well, Roger, even if we go with the centralized pickup, that's still going on the trash bill. You can, whatever, but when you ask for a bid on it, and you say as part of getting that contract, you're going to provide these, that's still going on the trash bill, whether you call it trash or whether you call it recycling, it still has to be paid for one way or the other. So
the residential curbside recycling, it's subscription based at $3.06 per month.
people that's using it now in the city of
Then
Nelsonville.
they get an 18-gallon bin, and if they want a 65-gallon cart, it's $2.75 extra. So it's $5.81 a month if you wanted a 65-gallon cart. If you want to go with just an 18-gallon bin, when I say 18-gallon, it's about like this, and it is what the size of it is. And it goes for just $3.06 right now.
But that's in addition to what is being collected for the dumpsters in the trash bill, because when you build that out, that's emptying those dumpsters is included in the trash bill per customer.
As I understand right now, your public drop-offs, you don't get billed for it every month.
No,
But the vendor had to figure it into his costs for the year.
right.
And then divide it by the number of stops. So everyone pays a little bit toward it. Yes, I agree. But it's not a billable expense that you see a number every month.
And since this contract went into place, there's been a lot of changes in the recycling markets. I mean, the markets have went way down on the market.
And the other thing that's happened, you guys used to have two locations. The one location, you needed the room for a contractor, so you had to, temporarily take it away, which put even more of a burden on the one that you have up here.
Right outside.
Exactly. In what my one communication was, it needs to go at least twice a week. And then after doing some discussion, I understand that the vendors, he doesn't have a truck up here in this area twice a week.
And then we have a resident, we use the truck we use for the residential recycling for that, which is here on Tuesdays.
So that's when he empties these too, then.
No, that's when we empty those. And we empty.
So, let me just go around the room. Go ahead, Court.
Can I ask a quick question to Mr. Rupert? Because the recycling market is way down now, if you were to forecast, potentially looking into the future for a new contract, how do you think that's going to affect the cost of recycling, higher or lower for a participant?
What's going to happen in November?
The thing with recycling is
Your best guess. I know you have no crystal ball here. I don't know. But.
For $3.06 a month, that is very low for curbside recycling. I mean, could I guarantee that Rumpke's going to come back and say $3.06 if it goes out for bid? I don't know. Markets have been not.
And unfortunately, the laws were passed back when the markets were good.
No.
The higher laws on recycling, which pretty much requires every place to recycle. Those laws were passed back when you could make a little money on recycling.
One thing else is when I'm going to go two contracts back when Southern Ohio Disposal had this, and there were two public drop-off sites. Council didn't know which way they wanted to go, have it as a user fee for the whole city, or if they want to have public drop-off boxes, because there were people that were like, hey, look, we don't want to have, we want the option to be able to go to public drop-off box instead of putting it at the curb. Me, myself, if I have an option, I'm going to put it at the curb. I'm not going to put it in my car. I'm not going to take it somewhere. I'm not going to drop it off. I want it at my house. So council went, hey, we want to go this route, and we want to have the public drop-off boxes along with the curbside recycling as a subscription base. And then the contract come out for bid again on that, and then that's when Rumpke won the contract, and council kept it the same way with the public drop-off sites and the curbside recycling, or subscription curbside recycling. So if somebody wanted to pay that extra money for the curbside recycling, they could pay the extra money on top of their trash service. And it's a, it's a tough decision.
Well, I'm gonna go around the room and take everybody's opinion. Scott?
On which part specifically, Greg? The,
Curbside or dumpster?
so the dumpster generates a lot of work for us. If you look out there now, you can see there's a mess around the dumpsters. Right now, it's not as bad as I've seen it in the past. There has been times when stuff has been left behind, tires, different types of, I think it was a microwave or something to that effect. But somebody comes here and they dump their stuff. There's nobody out there monitoring what they
Don't have
drop
any
off.
cameras either.
Right. So when that stuff gets left and the recycle truck comes and leaves and the stuff's still on the ground, we got to go out and clean it up. And if it's windy prior to, we are walking up and down the tracks, getting all the rubbish, bringing it back. And so it's from a management perspective, it takes more time than it should to manage, and it pulls away from a lot of other programs. That's really about the biggest concern I see from a management perspective.
If we're gonna continue, we would have to provide some kind of security where we can catch those people abusing it. Like we'd have to put some camera or something on it and pass a law that says, recyclable zone, if we catch you dropping trash or whatever, it's, it violates city ordinance. So we would have to include that cost on some sort of security, because I agree, even if we decided to go with the dumpsters, we would have to spend some money to improve the situation it is right now. So
I would suggest if you decide to maintain a public drop-off, regardless whether it's here or somewhere else, to have the ability to increase the number of times per week.
well, then that's gonna increase the trash bill, because it's gonna be included in the trash bill.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
my experience with solid waste starting out once a week, when
We've already made,
I went twice a week, and
For
now
your-
my 5th year, I'm going 3 times a week. It's on my
Right. Something you don't know, this committee already decided to do that. That if we kept the drop-offs, there was gonna have to be picked up twice a week, but it would increase that would go on the everybody's garbage bill. Tony?
I think, the central drop-off spots were a great idea when they started. I think now it's become an abuse. Just like everything else in the world today, it's just, if it's free, people just think, oh, it's trash, just dump it in there. At the same time, I get, the $3.06, there's some people that would just, absolutely lose their minds over that. And there's a lot of people that would embrace it now. I think their whole recycling idea has turned a page with a lot of people. 5 years ago, if you talk to 95% of the people in this town, they would have said, yeah, no. Now, I'd say it's more like 50-50. I myself would be more inclined, just because of the abuse of those dumpsters, to go to curbside. That's just my
Just
opinion.
one thing about that, people didn't oppose curbside. What they opposed was being required to recycle.
Right.
I think I got a lot of comments. I don't want to play in my trash. I'm going to set it out there if they want to, but I think with single stream recycling now, where all you have to do is walk out and flip the lid and throw it in a can, and then once a week throw it out to the curb. I think that's
Gotten a lot easier.
yeah. I think it's but I think people weren't necessarily against curbside recycling. They were against being required to recycle.
With the user fee, I mean, either you recycle or you don't. We've got, if somebody, like, if Nelsonville said, we just took over Belpre. Everybody got a 95-gallon cart for trash, everybody got a 65-gallon cart for recycling. If they didn't want to recycle, they called in, they said, hey, pick up my 65-gallon cart, we're not going to use it, we scheduled to remove their cart. And now we do trash. I mean, it's,
But the user fee still.
but the user fee's still there. I mean, whether you want the recycling or not, and there's people that are like, look, I don't wanna do it. And I don't have the space for the container, or I just flat out don't wanna do it, just come get the 65 gallon. And then there's other people that are like, yep, we've got it, but everything is uniform.
I was for having curbside recycling for everyone before. I felt the same way though, as you just explained it. If you don't want to recycle, we're not going to recycle. You don't have to recycle, but you're going to pay for it. You're paying for the drop-off points now that are publicly. You just don't have a user fee on your bill, but you're paying for it. So, the reality is, if we had a curbside though, it might have even been a little bit cheaper for us potentially, so at that time. So, but, I'm not going to force anybody to recycle if they don't want to recycle, but, I think this is what we have to do in order to keep our city clean. And I think that it's ultimately the best. And I do know people that bring recycling over here. I think it's just going to make it easier for them now. They don't just take it out to the curb. It'll be more convenient for the individuals.
Well, I think if we can get the grant that Roger's talking about, I think it might even, if we can apply for that, we can get that.
We can apply, but understand we're competitive, and there's 52 solid waste districts, so.
Right.
There's no guarantee.
We got really low income. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the criteria is on the competitive bid, but usually Nelsonville fares pretty well on competitive bids.
The past practice has been, if it's a community that's starting a new curbside program, it's never had one, it rates pretty doggone high. And then the next thing is, the more match you put with it, the more additional points you get. And I can talk on my board about that, but it's the same thing. I'm not making any promises. I'm just saying it's there. They really like to support recycling containers. They like to do that, and especially if you're starting a program like this.
All right, Jan?
Well, I do agree that we can't continue to have this out here and have our city building trashed up, basically. I mean, we're expecting people to keep their places clean, and yet we have overflowing dumpsters out here. So I'd be all for curbside and get rid of these dumpsters because they're an eyesore. And they do take up our resources as far as manpower to clean up after them all.
And it's just from abuse. That's all it is. And I mean, you don't have a truckload of recycling in a week. I mean, some people could, but I'm just saying, as Corey could tell you, we, throughout the city, we have an overgrowing problem also with the dumpster guys that just like to dump their trash wherever. And they're either going to do it here or they're just going to do it wherever else. But it's becoming an overwhelming problem here.
It is, and it just makes our city building look that much worse. I mean, especially if you got somebody driving in the city building, get the grass in, we're getting a whole new look on the inside, and then
the train full of people.
Right, the train full of people going by.
It's nice to see that.
That's their city building? Yeah.
Carla?
You probably have to move just a little closer to that mic. I can hear you, but it's getting.
I can hear you, Carla.
Yeah, go for it from there.
Well, I don't think it's fair to punish all the residents in Nelsonville because some people abuse it. And from what you said, the people that are dumping trash aren't even from Nelsonville. So it's like we're punishing 70 or 80% of the people that really want to recycle but don't want it at their homes just because of a few people that won't play by the rules. And I think that the residents deserve to have a place to take their recycling, and it should be emptied twice a week, and that would take care of a lot of the problem. And as far as curbside, correct me if I'm wrong, did they say that you have to pay for it whether you want it or not if they do that?
They're paying for it now whether they want it or not. Also.
True.
In a different way.
It's
It's just not a line item.
Right. So,
It's a hidden cost. It's hidden in your price bill right now.
but that also could be negotiated into new contracts too.
Well, if we require them to empty it twice,
The price
it's gonna be negotiate up, it's
Well,
gonna,
you can negotiate that as to who.
well, we can put it
Gives
out,
the
we can
bid.
put it out to bid, is what we can do.
Right.
Alright.
And as far as having the roll-offs, there's also the problem with some people really just don't have a proper place. Like recycling at your home isn't perfect for everyone. As far as a place to put it, a place to store it, we're trying to ask people, you know, if you have your trash can, please don't leave it out front. Please don't leave it where everybody can see it. Now you're gonna give them an extra can to try and hide somewhere around their house. And with the $3 a month, you're talking, we raise water, we raise sewer. People on Social Security, they might still get $800 a month. You're raising their water, you're raising their sewer, the TV cable normally goes up, the electric normally goes up, then you're gonna add another $3 a month, which doesn't seem like much to people that go to work every day and get raises. But you talk about someone on a limited income
Mr. Smith, could you please silence your phone?
that had $50 a month to spend on groceries, whatever they wanted. Now they're down to 47. Then you add
Much
on other
worse than that.
utilities,
Person that calls and knows.
and I just disagree.
Thank you, Carla, for your,
I'm trying to think.
So if they dump
Carl
trash,
does bring up a good point, and we're gonna have to deal with it. Is there are people in town who lives on a hillside and they need to leave their trash receptacles because it's just way too much work for an old person to get it up and down the hill. But in that point, roll-offs would be easier to look at than what trash cans would. I mean, but it is something we need to deal with for people who live in bad areas where they can, you know, leave some kind of receptacle where they don't have to drag it back and forth. Because if I was 75 years, my age right now, if I tried to get up and down some of those places, it'd be really hard to do. So we need to deal with that as part of the trash contract. I mean,
so the people that are, you know, you voice your concerns about them, a place for them to store it or storing their, right now, I mean, what they really don't, if they're bringing it to a drop off, aren't they storing it at their house and then loading it in their car and bringing it here? So they're still storing it.
Trucks.
Well, just throw it back in the truck and then,
I always kept mine in my kitchen for a few days and then brought it up.
okay, well, I'm used to storing it. That's all I got on it.
I've got a lot of people, like Ford has called me up and said they wanted to keep the drop-offs. If we keep the drop-offs, it has to be a different place. There has to be security. And there has to be some kind of ordinance to catch people that's abusing us, which is gonna, but it's also gonna, I don't agree that it's gonna be a whole $3 difference in the trash bill if we just have a trash bill that it includes the recycling with the flip lid and, you know, trash service. I don't think it's going to end up being $3 because I think if we require them to come, any hauler to come empty those dumpsters 2 times a week, the price of that's going to go onto the trash service anyway. And I think if there's a possibility we can get this grant that Roger's talking about, and I think he said the criteria is a new curbside program. We got a new curbside program to help purchase these, you know, help purchase the roll-offs. Then maybe the price comparison washes out.
Yeah, but it's still, that's only the price of the cart. That's not the price of the user fee. You're still gonna have to charge, the hauler's gonna charge for driving by your house a second time that week to pick up. So there's still gonna be a user fee attached to it.
It depends on, we gotta go to the second question. It depends on whether we do the billing or the trash service does the billing. So we gotta get the first question answered. And then if we're doing the billing, the trash service that gives us the prices, here's what we're gonna charge you per customer. And then we have to decide what we're gonna charge per customer to be able to, break even on the billing. So
My 2 cents on that right now is I don't think we're in a position to do the billing ourselves yet. With that department that would be required to do that billing now, there's quite a bit on them at the moment, and I don't think we're there yet. And until they make some headway on past collections also in that department, and I'd like to see proof in the pudding on the results of that first, because otherwise, if we take on the billing of that, and we have those same people that aren't paying water and sewer bills now not paying trash and recycling bills, that's more put on us to go out and collect. I just don't think we're ready for that personally. I think maybe we're a year or two off from that.
I've always opposed billing for the same reason. I thought we'd take a bath on it, and we'd have to charge everybody else more.
But I think that department has a good plan of action on collecting right now. So, but I want to see some results from that.
I always believe in this, I always say the bank and I have an agreement. I don't give loans and they don't rent houses. It's kind of one of those things where we've taken a bath on several water bills over the years, more than one bath. And right now, I think the auditor's office is going in the right direction. I think they're doing a good job. But I don't know whether us stepping up to start doing the billing is a bright idea right now. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think they got a lot of room. Like they're restructuring over there. They're in the building phase. And so the other slippery slope to that is we require all trash service be in the property owner's name. Now, all the water bills are not in the property owner's name.
Yep. So that's the follow-on to that is, I agree with everybody that they're swamped right now and they are digging out of their hole. And going forward, especially if we're able to move Cindy up to full time, we would have some more capacity once we get some of the behind stuff out of the way. But billing makes sense for the amount of money that we're spending to mail out a water bill already. Adding something else to the bill, that goes hand in hand with saving paper anyways. But you make a great point that right now the trash has got to be in the property owner's name versus the renter's name. And if we did something like that with the water bills, I think we'd have a lot less issues.
Well, I agree.
You are back on.
We're back live. Where were we?
So I was asking a question to Mr. Rupert if Rumpke has
Done this in other communities.
has a relationship with other communities where they do the billing and Rumpke only does the hauling.
Yes.
And I was just going to ask him to kind of speak to that, how that works and how that might be for you guys and how you feel it is for the communities.
We do for, just right off the top of my head, areas I cover. There's Colton, Village of Colton, Village of Hammond, and Belpre. They will tell us if there's a new customer or a customer moved or what have you. We take it off the billing with that case. We bill monthly.
Take it off the route.
Yeah, we just take it off the route. Say 3953 Canal Street or what have you. They move in, we turn it on. They move out, we turn it on.
You still do Marietta?
Yes, but Marietta's, we bill.
You bill for Marietta?
We bill the resident in Marietta. The one thing about this,
Corey and I have talked several times. I was on council in another city with it. You guys are trying to make decisions, and then you got to go to council and get that going, which everybody knows how you got people that butt heads, and it just doesn't. I mean, this is a very touchy subject of trash and recycling. The contract, and I'm looking at timeframes here with it, is March 31st of 2021. And I mean, you got to, and I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do or how you want to do it, but if you're going to change something and you're looking to put this out to bid, there's another year renewal that's upon mutual agreement by both parties on this thing. But you need to give, I shouldn't say you need to, it's very, for a hauler standpoint, you want to be 3 to 4 months out when you put that bid.
Well, Nick, my goal is that this committee has contract ready to put out the bid by the middle of next month in September.
Okay.
So I think we got to do that. We got to get the contract language ready. We got to get it to that law director, have him write the contract up, and we got to and then Scott can bid it. But I think we got to do that. And we promised the citizens we would get the contract. One of the things that's hurt us is I have had hope that citizens would be able to attend our meetings, and this COVID-19 thing is, I think if we had people that, like one of the first people that contacted me wanting to keep the drop-offs, if they could be here to ask questions, it might help. Actually, to the people. One of the things I wanted to bring up, Roger, and it goes to Carla's point, since we're doing a proprietary fund, has any cities ever lowered the cost for people with hardships, like people on fixed incomes, or have you ever in your districts, have you seen any of that?
So in other words, if you had a senior citizen or if he is over the age of such and such,
and they had a fixed income, and could prove it, they could apply for a grant to only pay a lesser amount.
I don't know of a situation where there's been a monetary value. I do know of some contracts that the service is provided in a different manner based on disabilities or physical ability to take their can to the curb or take their can back. From the days when I used to run a crew and provide that service, everyone wants to get it started and they all have a doctor's note, but they always forget to tell you when they feel better. So first thing you know, you're going to 40 or 50 houses a week,
Well, that's in our contract right now.
So, it makes it really hard on the administration to try to monitor that, keep track of it. So I would be a little hesitant to start a program, because if you're working on the billing and working on monitoring the contract, that's going to put that burden back on your city administration to attempt to manage that. It'd be pretty tough to manage. How old or what, their financial ability was to pay or not pay.
Scott, can you get with Mr. Sapp's office and see what their thoughts would be on handling trash billing through water bill?
He was all for it back in January, but I don't know now.
Well, the whole office has changed.
They're doing really good back there, so I'll gladly buy some
Also,
towards that. So
we need to look at, again, property owners as far as water bills.
I just wanted to add something about making the trash and the water bill the same, like one utility bill. So we've actually run across several folks. So I get it. We have an ordinance that says that, if you're a renter, your property owner is required to pay for trash service. And sadly, that's just not happening. And I don't know if it would be advantageous for that renter if they just had one bill to worry about, so they knew that the property owner was responsible for the water and the trash. That way they could, to me, it'd just be more transparent that the landlord's going to provide me these two services and I'm paying for it in my rent or whatever they
Well, Scott, I think the solution to that is to only turn the water on in the landowner's name and send the landowner the bill. If we're gonna do that, send the landowner the bill for the water and the trash.
I think that's a great idea.
I mean, I think that's the only way to solve that. And that's another decision we'll have to make as part of this, what we're gonna do. But I mean, there's, regardless of which way we go, there's supplemental ordinances we're gonna have to pose. If we keep the drop-offs, we're gonna have to deal with people putting trash in the recycling and make that illegal. And I'm just saying, everything has something problems we're gonna have to deal with, any solution. So
the other problem with the landlords having the water in their name only is if there's non-payment, we have a shut-off policy, but yet we can't go shut off a tenant's water if they're not getting the bill or they don't know it's not paid.
I was gonna ask that same point, because the other thing is, so, you know, being a property owner, you know, if they don't pay, if currently the only thing I pay for is trash, you know, or if I only have one water meter and it's multiple units, then I pay for that. But the reality is, like on an individual unit, if it has a separate meter, I personally don't want to pay for their usage. And most of my tenants are absolutely fine with that, so they pay for it. Now, if you put that on to the landlord, I've got to go collect it. If it's non-payment of rent and they don't pay, I have a process that I can go and evict. But when it comes to utility like that,
I don't think you can turn them off either.
I can't turn them off, and I can't evict them for that, and I could be potentially out of that money still going forward. So
the only thing to that is you're potentially going to be out anyway if they don't pay their water bill.
Yes, but at least this way, if the water bill's in their name, they can get notified that they will be shut off on non-payment. So that's a big difference. So do we also just require them to say, listen, okay, so the water and property owners co-sign, but if you got water service, you're gonna have trash service. That's just.
Well, the other thing is, we had that ordinance before where it was a requirement to have trash service. And if we had people in the past that weren't compliant, we were never enforcing it. That is different now. We do have enforcement now.
We do.
But that's something we haven't necessarily gone after because maybe there's been bigger fish at the moment. But that's something potentially we could be doing though.
It is a question that Mr. Hunter is going to have to answer. The one.
Yeah, I agree. I think he does need to answer a little bit.
I just wrote it down to email it.
Well, I agree with you, Greg. There's always a solution. So, I mean, whatever our problem is that we're working towards, we can definitely solve it. And not me as a property owner personally, I'm fine with adapting to however we move forward. But it is going to, anybody who's locked into a current lease, it's going to affect all those landlord-tenant relationships from that moment that transpires. I mean, it's going to have to change.
We could do that with a year delay, like if we decided to do our own billing, we could keep the things as they are written now and let people know at a certain date they're changing so they can deal with their leases. However, the last time I talked to Mr. Hunter, when this come up about whether to bill or not, it's been, the rebuilding, it's 3 contracts ago.
Yeah.
It was like 3 contracts ago. Mr. Hunter was against the city building on kind of, he thought there was too many legal ramifications to it. So I have to go. He's going to be here Wednesday. I got to just call him up and talk to him about that.
And to Carla's point, now there are some of us that have worked, say, for the college, et cetera, that have not received raises also, along with maybe those that are on Social Security that haven't really seen bump ups either in the last several years. But I understand the other utilities are, if they are still, as far as the poverty guidelines go, for other utilities, they are eligible for, PIP, those things. And there may be something out there too. I don't know that answer, but there may be something like that to help with water as well. I know HAPCAP just did announce that they were going to help people pay back water bills up to a certain dollar amount recently if they received a shut-off notice. So there may be opportunities out there for assistance.
And I got another question about if somebody comes in, say, with trash on their water, they come in and they owe $150 and they got $100 bill, and they slap $100 bill down and say, I want to make a payment. What money goes to what fund?
We have that same problem now. If they bring it in, does it go to the water fund or the sewer fund?
Yeah, or
Do
does it go to?
do you make the customer then decide which one they want to apply to, or?
Right now,
I
the
think you should split even.
past practice has been just to put it all in the water fund, which we believe is why some of his numbers are so out of whack. And, but he's actually seeking a solution to that and a solid answer.
You could go pro rata, but then also at the same time, there's going to be late penalties on whatever amount that isn't paid. And that should probably be the same way.
Yeah, there's a billing issue there. How to break it up and.
So the long and short, we're gonna work on bid specs and something will be coming out, maybe we'll put it out the bid and have it.
I want to get them done by the middle of next month and get them to the lawyer so you can, I mean, that's, if we have to have another meeting on the off week, we'll have another meeting on the off week, but I want to get the bid specs done.
Do you guys think you can figure out a way to do 2 times a week out here to help take the burden off of it?
I can ask. I mean, I'll go.
We're going to put it in the contract if
Well,
That doesn't start until April.
April, right?
Right. So if you'll give me permission, I'll pay for the second time a week until you can get the mark.
Let me ask him.
2 things, you're a franchise community, so if I bring another hauler in, you see what I'm saying out loud, so you know. But to make and to prove a point that servicing it twice a week will make a big difference in what you have out. Because your people don't need to be doing what they have to do. But I need your permission to do it and their permission to touch them.
I'd like to find a whole new location for those, because it just doesn't look good to have those dumpsters sitting in front of City Hall.
Well, that's gonna be, I would view that as probably an answer after March 31st, unless you think you can find a new place for it before then.
We could potentially move back down to where it was within the next month, as those contractors are wrapping up, and the one primarily that was there has almost finished up everything in the city. So they'll be out of there and we could put it all back down there.
I just want to try to be part of a solution.
To be fair, Scott, if it goes back down there has to be some improvements made where there's not mud. And I think we're requiring everybody else to pave, so I think we'll probably have to, that kind of cameras, somehow dealing with the mud and the dirt and that kind of stuff, and consider those costs. Because my feeling is, and this is hard for people to understand, there's nothing free in this life. And if we're going to stay with drop-offs, well, then that drop-off cost needs to be included in. And so also my feeling is that some people ought to just get a trash bill, and that it covers everything, whether you have curbside or whether you have drop-off. That trash bill covers. You're just getting a trash bill from this that says, and here's the services you're getting. I'm going tomorrow to contact Colton, Hampton, and Belpre and get their bills and see what they're paying per customer, or how they're paying, or so we'll have better understanding about making that other decision about whether we want to bill or not. In the meantime, Taylor can chime in whether he can handle it right now. So I'm just going to ask the committee to vote. You guys want to vote tonight on curbside or dumpsters, or you want to wait till a meeting 2 weeks from now?
My only concern is the trash out here. So as far as that goes, I mean,
I'm not necessarily against the central location. It's just the fact, like I said, it is out here. People want the train gets drive by. It's really nice. It's welcome to Nelsonville.
we're requiring people to clean up. We should clean up. our own.
Yeah, we should clean up our own front backyard if we're gonna
So
respond.
Scott, maybe if we have another meeting in 2 weeks on the council, we probably maybe get an estimate on what it would take to put security cameras in, maybe even paved areas, so I hesitate to say put gravel in because we're requiring residents not to put gravel in, so I think if we're gonna do that, we need to see what the cost of it is to move everything down there, get a security camera on it. It doesn't cost us anything to put an ordinance in effect that you can't put trash in a recycle bin.
So your thought is to put asphalt down by the wastewater plant.
Right.
You have heavy trucks that twist and they set and they shake like this.
That's a different discussion. What the
Put a
trash
real
trucks
good base
do are,
under it.
they're destroying our streets.
Well, I just want to be open with you.
If you're putting a new site in, and you're gonna put a fresh blacktop down, I mean,
Not a good idea.
no, I mean,
Not a good idea. That's like baking a cake and trying to walk across it. Same idea. It's just gonna squish and shove it out.
Probably.
Yeah, what you might do, and I
It
think
makes
Scott's
sense.
right, this is another good discussion, but what you might do is create a nice base with 1s and 2s, have them drive on it, pack it in real good, come back and grade it, and build your base this year.
Yeah.
Next year, you may have enough to hold up whether you go Portland
Well,
cement.
next year we might do something.
It'd have to be cement of some sort,
So-
if anything.
But I just hate for you to put money out there because I just don't think that material is gonna take that.
I just wanna see the cost of it versus,
Versus curbside. Twice a week, picking them up versus curbside service
Right.
and be able to go, okay,
see what
here you go.
see what the cost comparison is, that
Well, and I
citizens,
included
our
big
citizens are gonna be
dollars.
paying for all of it, but I'd like to have a fair cost. See what I'm saying, Scott?
Yep. I was just
Short-term
asking,
solution is put those down.
right, so I mean, I guess is the discussion open? So since we're now talking about requirements for where they used to be, can I go out and explore options for maybe a better suited existing place?
Absolutely.
So I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I sure would like to explore it. You know, do we already have something out there that meets the foundation requirements or concrete or asphalt currently? Or, and it's not gonna be in the eye of the train. In fact, out of sight, out of mind,
That has another issue too. If you
Yeah.
decide to do that, you'll get a wonderful collection of upholstery furniture.
I heard mattresses. The camera is a must for no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
definite. We gotta have it. I mean, Blaine National Forest has actually done it at some of their dump sites. I've seen it on Facebook where they've caught people dumping. And bam, license plate.
What about out back? Up along the building, we're building a levee with all the brick and a lot of the trash stuff that's back there. We're building a levee around it. At what point you could put cameras on each end of the building? This would be the only way in, and you could put one camera facing the road and you could get license plates either in or out.
Motion
And then
activated
you
camera.
could see what they're dumping, and then you'd be able to have a license plate.
Do you want them back there in the yard?
That's another.
What if you put them up against, closer to the back of the building? We don't put a whole lot of stuff there. We throw some of the bigger pipe out right there. We're cleaning that up back there, so we're making more room. So if we kept them up along the back, we would be able to, we already have access to all the electric and everything with the buildings. On the side of the utility building, you could put a camera facing the road to catch license plates, either in or out. On the building out back, on the lean-to building, there's power back there. You can put cameras on both ends, maybe one in the middle. You can catch all angles of it. And then there's your cameras to catch everybody. It's out of sight from here. And once we're done building the levee, you're not gonna be able to see it from the train.
Something to think about.
Well, why don't you, if we agree to meet on the week after the council meeting, on the Monday night, is that,
Works.
and then we'll come, you can work on that solution. Tell us what it would cost, how much it would, how much it would add. And then we'll work on the billing question with Taylor. you wanna talk to him about that in the meantime, and we'll make those decisions at that meeting. We're gonna have to make them at that meeting because, we gotta get it to full council and then get the bid specs out, so.
That's September 7th, that's Labor Day. You're gonna meet Labor Day?
No, not that'd be no, it would not be September the 7th. What, sir?
That would be 2 weeks from today, be the 31st.
Oh, okay, sorry.
My phone died. I don't know.
That's what I thought.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Same thing.
First, yeah.
So we're gonna agree to meet the 31st at 7 PM. It's on that off chance that Andrew's not gonna watch this, I'm gonna make sure.
All right. No, I got one more, sir.
Let's go on, take it.
So the water tower on top of Basin City Hill. You guys may remember that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things, I don't have the entire backstory. I don't really know that it even is relevant. So I took our engineer out, so back up. The owner's in the process of trying to sell it. The potential buyer doesn't want it. And it's always been in limbo whether or not it's required or not. So we have determined by fire code it's required to be there because it feeds the supply to the hydrants to make sure there's enough volume there in the event of a fire. If we took that tank off the top of the hill today, everybody's shower and toilet would still work just fine, no problem.
Just when the fire happens.
Right, but so it's there for the fire happens. Now, is it nice to have up there? Does it boost pressure for everybody? It sure does. I took our engineer up there to look at it, and it's a really nice tank. It has a solid 30 years left on it. And he said it's the exact same tank that they add to their infrastructure still today, out in rural areas and such. So I've been in talks with the owner who's trying to move on the property. And I believe, and then also I took Gary Hunter up there today to look at it. There's an easement put in place from the last time you guys talked about this, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago with Mr. Graff. So that's already been put in place. The tank would come with 0.21 acres. That's the lot it's sitting on separate from all the other lots that are down there. And the last that I have exchanged with her is she would be potentially willing to donate that to the city if we were willing to write her a letter and for her to do her tax write-off, which I talked to Gary about today. And he said that's not a problem in the amount of $68,500. And that's what's on the auditor's website is the value of that land and tank. So I need permission from council to move forward. Gary doesn't have any objections. There's nothing stopping it. It would just
have me bring the legislation, and that's how council can give permission.
Right, I just wanted to bring it to you guys first to see if you had any issues taking it to full council for Monday.
No, do it. You right, Dan?
Yep.
Johnny?
Yes.
Roger. Then full council can just decide.
Perfect. I just wanted to hit here before going to full council. See that, Carla? It didn't cost anything.
Show me which face, Carla, show me a face.
No, that's all I had.
So we want to get Taylor's opinion on billing, if he can do it. And we want for you guys to work on a potential drop-off point somewhere and develop what that'll cost. Because if we do billing, it needs to be put into the cost. And so we can compare what curbside would actually cost versus drop-off. And then we'll make the decision on what we're going to do the 31st. Everybody got the contract. Was there any other changes we wanted to do in the contract?
I know Jason is working with his guys, compiling a list of what's already the streets that are supposed to have smaller trucks versus other trucks and all. So he's going through validating. And we're going to add streets to that.
We've got a few streets that have been really destroyed by trash trucks.
A couple of alleys. We're able to work with you on that now.
We've got one alley that's really bad, and
the alleys were never built for cars that are on regular cars, let alone trash trucks. And it's a high profile alley for the police department. And it's pretty bad to where the oil pans almost bottom out when they come up in.
Well, we'll have to include them in the bid specs anyway, because everybody will have to bid on it. But
On that with those streets, I mean, we've worked with Nelsonville in the past on the streets that say, hey, look.
you got a card with you next, so they can give you a call.
This isn't gonna fly with trash truck on it. We've worked with the city on that. I've got,
Scott and myself have looked at some of them. There's a few of these alleys where we think it might be best to do an out front pickup on trash day.
They would prefer that anyway.
Over a couple of these alleys because they're really bad and as high profile as they are for the police department right now.
where they have, I mean, it's hard for a guy to run the truck when he's going down the street and people put stuff out back and they don't put it out front. I mean, that's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you got Becky who's on top of things right now really well as far as like the trash can setting out and stuff. It may be better to do some of these roads out front because she's on top of it as far as it goes anyway. And it's going to save the city a lot of money in the long run, going back to fixing alleys, and the alleys are bad. I mean, the alley behind Dan's house is, you can't go 1 mile an hour up that alley without getting beat half to death.
Well, bad. I got people that speed up and down there all day.
I got a quick question before we adjourn, for Mr. Beal. Like this competitive grant for the recycle bins, is that contingent upon us billing ourselves? Or, okay, so we could potentially still apply for that regardless of our decision of if we decide to bill ourselves or not.
Right, the applications would come out late, if the high EPA and the COVID thing goes okay and things open back up, and they say that we're gonna take grants for 2021, then you could submit an application by, I think it's the end of February, and then you know by June whether it happens or not. It's competitive. They like to fund containers for recycling. Whenever it's a new program, the commitment the community has to make is to continue for 3 years. The last grant that our district did was a glass grant in the city of Athens, where they collected.
Robert, you just
bar
brought
glass.
something up that I need to ask the committee about.
So that's how that all happens. And then if you want my board to help fund it, I would need to go to my board and say the city of Nelsonville is interested in applying for EPA grant. Number one, I need your authorization to submit this grant form, plus they've asked for match money. And we can talk about that, what amounts you need to come up with. Okay. But even if you're approved, understand the money don't come available until next July, and it's good for 1 year. So it's not a guaranteed thing, and it takes 6 to 9 months to find out if it happens. It's a win-win. But I just don't want you to have a false feeling here when you leave tonight that it's a done deal.
Well, it'd be nice if we could get everybody their own roll-off container, and it didn't cost them.
It would eliminate that monthly fee that the service provider, when they provide a container, is going to ask for a monthly fee that over a period of time they recoup their cost. Their cost is going to be between $48 and $58 per container. So, they're going to want to recover that in the length of the contract, which I assume is 3 years. So
that's something we need to decide too.
So then the next question is, then that though is property of the city of Nelsonville though,
right,
after that grant. So if people move.
The city's responsible for that.
Right.
Yeah, they can't, we don't want them taking that can either.
They can at the residence.
Correct.
That brings up the point, does anybody here want to go less than 3 years? Because I don't want to go less than 3 years. If we apply for the container grant, we have to go 3 years. I don't want to go less than 3 years anyway, because these things.
On the new contract, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Can I throw in something that's been a concern of citizens? I don't know, do the local trash providers offer green waste removal? Sticks, twigs, grass, shade.
Yard waste.
Yard waste, because right now even the city doesn't have a way to get rid of all that
I
stuff.
just stick it in a trash bag.
Yeah, we take it with your trash. Regular yard waste goes in with the trash.
Mhm.
When you start, if you want a dedicated yard waste, compost, or what have you, it is expensive. It's very expensive to have just a sole yard waste program. It is expensive.
Maybe that's a different service the city could provide
I was
outside
gonna
of.
say, my suggestion would be if you had time, sometime set up a meeting. and
We had
talk about
originally,
it. If you start composting, the EPA's kind of, there's Class A, Class C, Class B, and Class C requirement. So if you do it in-house, if you want to go with someone else.
we got a simpler solution that we had talked about.
You could feel the land, or feel the
We had talked about,
your leaves in the fall, and you're allowed to do that. If you want, we can talk about that.
we had talked about, a while back, just buying a, chipper and making a compost pile for people that want to, and
I was just looking at the labor time of that of one of our guys,
Right.
the chipper.
The labor, is it in the floodplain, leachate?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a big problem. If you just do it for yourself,
I didn't know
that's
if you
one thing.
could get a bin, a big dumpster and have one central collection point and have it hauled off to the dump every now and again. I don't even know what options. I just know everywhere else I've been. I mean, even when I left England, you had 3 bins. You had your green bin, your recycle bin, and your trash bin, and they stayed with the house, And then when I got the house, recycling was included, but if I wanted the green waste, that was an extra 15 pounds a month, So
we just stick it in the trash bag and just set it out there and they haul it off.
well, folks that have big branches after, especially all the storms we've had this year, folks have significant amounts of green waste. It's more than just cleaning off.
What we used to do back when I was a kid, we used to pile it down the Pally Field and have the pep rally for the football team first game, but yeah.
You got the fire department involved.
I do have a question. With all the construction, I've talked to Becky. Becky gave me the public information officer email if there are streets that are closed and I mean, you guys I do have quite a bit of construction. Last week was really difficult because the driver, I mean, we were coming right in at when we're allowed to come in. We would like to come in an hour earlier if that's possible, because then we can beat the guys, we can beat down some of these streets that are going to be shut down before they're shut down.
It's the only thing I can add to that, and of course, I mean, that's a decision for them to make. Our construction will start slowing down in town, and we don't have as much on the radar next summer as we do now. So once the gas project wraps up, the sewer project will be done with in-town. The in-town piece will be done in about 2 months, and we shouldn't have any more big projects that I'm aware of on the horizon. So, but coming in an hour earlier, that's for you guys to.
Well, if there's something like you just got one street tore up and you want to let the residents know, or somehow let the residents know that they need to get their trash out there an hour earlier, I mean, that's something that you can work out with them just on one street. And if it's the whole city, well, then the council's gonna have to act. But I mean, if you're just dealing with, say,
You've got, there's different streets, that are shut down from what I understand. Because I was asked, and I said, hey, I'm going to a committee meeting, and I had a supervisor ask me to ask that question, so.
we can't. We'd have to put the contract all back out to do that. I don't know how we can.
Really
Yeah.
need to make an exception to the rule?
I think he could, we don't care, and I think the city manager could, you just have to let the people involved know that they had to have their trash out there, and then if you have somebody that happens to not get their trash picked up, you're gonna have to deal with that, so.
It's really gonna be the east end of town is where we're
Right.
impacted, and it's gonna be,
That's why I'm saying, maybe they can work it out,
yeah.
but as long as you tell the,
Well, the past couple of weeks, I think Fort Clinton were pretty challenging.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
They were one way.
Pleasant View and Scott.
Mhm. Yeah,
maybe
so
we, maybe when we do those press releases telling people the streets are gonna be closed, we can tell them that the trash is gonna be picked up a little earlier.
And sometimes, I mean, I mean,
What's your start time now, Mr. Rupert?
6.
I know the gas guys have still got Franklin Street and Washington Street to do.
Okay. So what time do you propose you start?
They were asking for an hour earlier,
5.
is what they were asking.
So I guess the question would be, you know, how do the citizens feel about the trash trucks coming in at 5 a.m. versus 6?
We already changed some of it from the
Don't
commercial.
disturb none of the crackheads when you come rolling through them.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I've been getting up, leaving town at 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's, you'd be surprised how many people actually leave the town.
There's a lot of people leaving town.
When I was on campus, it was the same. So
The biggest thing is you're not supposed to put your trash can out a day ahead of time, and a lot of people get up in the morning and put them out. And if they think that they're fine with putting them out at 6 o'clock in the morning and they go out and put it out and the trash is already run, then there's gonna be a problem. I don't think it matters about the noise and all that. I think it matters about people getting their cans out.
you can put them out the night before.
Yeah, the
It's
night
just after
A lot of people don't know because of dogs and stuff. They get up and go to work, and they take their cans out as they're going to work. That happened to me once, and I called and they come back and got it. And I had it set out like at 5:30. I got up at 5 to go to work, and I took my trash out because if you set it out, basically you use a bag, the dogs are gonna get in it. Or people's gonna,
everybody should have a can.
yeah, so, I mean, maybe if that, people just, the fact that, if you're just working a certain area of the town and the people know it, and the trash guys know that if they do happen to miss somebody, they're gonna have to go back and get it sometime during the week, so.
So are you okay if we do a couple-day social media campaign and try to spread the word everywhere we can to do
Yeah.
1 hour early, and then starting next week you can do an hour early and we'll deal with the repercussions of missed pickups?
Yeah.
And see what it looks like anyways.
Yeah, because it's too early to start for this week, so we can't.
Yeah,
wait
and
till
even
next
if it's, even if it's
Next
2
month.
weeks, or the start of
September.
start September 1. I mean, just say, hey, September 1. I mean, until, the construction's done, I mean, that helps.
I mean, it's gonna be a bear when they go to Franklin Street and get up on the hills. They'll have to close that road, so I mean, it would make more sense for them to come in our way.
So there you go, starting September 1.
05.
We'll be coming in an hour early.
So 05 start time.
Yeah.
So we'll just start pushing it out there everywhere we can.
Till the gas project is complete.
I think in the contract, the city manager has the right to, yeah. I think you read the contract, the city manager has the right to, if there's a complaint, it comes to you, so.
So it's all on you.
I mean, it's a kind of extenuating circumstance.
I'm fine making a change, and if we just have a bunch of them, you know, hopefully it's only a one-time thing that, you know, the ones that we missed the first time, we'll learn for the next time, the night before.
And we realize that not everybody's gonna be on this committee meeting, so we'll make sure that we make an announcement at the next council meeting,
Of course.
notifying them that this is probably gonna happen, effective a certain date, so that we're aware of it.
Bear, did you get that? We need a public release. The time is changing to 05 for the trash. Thank you.
September 1.
September 1st.
All right.
You
PIO
have it
identified.
by my house, so
Okay.
trash day for me, or?
Maybe just to be safe, maybe we ought to bring that up as a motion at the next meeting.
Fair enough.
You know, I'm sure it's gonna pass, but
Yeah, let's see.
You okay with that, Colin?
All right.
You get smiley face for that?
On an unrelated subject, I need to make something extremely clear for our Facebook warriors out there. If we do decide to hire Scott Fitch as the permanent chief, he will pass he will pass all the tests that are required. There is nothing special going on for him whatsoever. So please, don't stop being part of the problem and be part of the solution. Thank you.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, come up, please,
I've
fine.
been staying off of Facebook, it's better for my mood.
I should too, but I should. So anyway, that's all I have. Great meeting. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You done?